Here we go. Hey guys, welcome to my kitchen. I'm Jamison and this is how I cook. So in a previous video, I showed you guys how to make a pumpkin swirl cheesecake. So I said, why not show you how to make a sweet potato pie swirl cheesecake? So up next, so this is how I cook. I'm going to show you how to make a sweet potato pie swirl cheesecake. Okay guys, before we get into the ingredients, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. It really does help my channel to grow. So my base cheesecake recipe uses 2 eggs, sour cream, we've got blocks of cream cheese obviously, we've got 2 ready-made graham cracker pie crust, we've got a 1/2 cup of sugar, and we've got some vanilla extract. And that's all I use to make my cheesecake. And so what I would advise is with my particular recipe, you're gonna wanna make 2 of these ready-made pie crust worth of cheesecake. So if you follow my instructions, you'll get the exact amount that you need to make those 2 cheesecakes turn out amazing. And what we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you also how to make that sweet potato pie swirl, and I'm gonna also show you how to make that pumpkin pie swirl. So the first thing we want to do is to our large mixing bowl, we're going to add in our softened cream cheese. So this cream cheese has sat out on my counter for about an hour so they can soften up. Makes it easier to mix it together with the rest of the ingredients. So we want to add in 1 cup of sour cream. All you gotta do is remember 4 ounces of sour cream for every block of cream cheese. So 8 ounces is 1 cup. So we wanna set this aside so we can work on our eggs. So we're gonna make a meringue with our eggs. So the first thing we wanna do is separate the egg white from the egg yolk. And you wanna be careful doing this, but it's not hard. You just wanna take your time and get all that egg white into a separate dish. And so what I do is I kind of transfer the egg back and forth between the shell, the egg yolk back and forth between the shell, and then usually, if it's a fresh egg, the egg white just falls out. And I'm gonna take this egg yolk and put it into my cream cheese and my sour cream. So now we want to take our mixer and beat these egg whites until they become nice and fluffy as a meringue. Now, how can you tell when your meringue is done? Well, if you take your meringue and you turn the bowl upside down, if it doesn't come out the bowl, then your meringue is done. But really, instead of risking it all, I just look at the meringue and when it looks like that, then I'm satisfied with it. So that's our meringue from those 2 egg whites. So now we need to finish mixing up the rest of our cheesecake batter. And so you've got the cup of sour cream, you've got the 2 blocks of cream cheese, you've got the 2 egg yolks. So now what we're gonna do is come back with our 1/2 cup of sugar. So just remember 1/4 cup of sugar for every block of cream cheese. We're gonna add in a splash of vanilla extract. So about a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Now we take our time and turn our mixer on and bring all this together. What we want to do next is we want to scrape down the sides of our bowl and then we'll finish mixing up the cheesecake. I want to add in at this point just a little bit of flour, all-purpose flour. So about a tablespoon should be fine. And before I turn my mixer back on, I kind of work the flour into the batter. And that is our cheesecake batter. So now since we're making a fall style cheesecake, what I want to do is spice up my batter a little bit. So at this point, you've got my basic cheesecake, but now I'm going to add a few spices in it to make it a more fall flavored dish. So I'm going to come in with a little bit of cinnamon, probably about a half a teaspoon of cinnamon, and we're going to come in with some nutmeg. Nutmeg can be very strong, so we're not going to put nearly as much nutmeg in here as we did cinnamon. So just a touch, maybe a quarter teaspoon of nutmeg, and we just want to mix all this together. Once again, we want to mix down the sides here. And so what we need to do now is add in our meringue into here. And what I'm going to do is fold the meringue into this cheesecake batter. And we just take our time and come up underneath the bottom and fold the batter on top of the meringue and repeat. So if we stirred this, it would collapse the meringue and we would lose all that air that we worked to whip into the meringue when we were mixing it up. And I want that air inside the cheesecake, and the meringue is just a medium to give me that fluffiness inside the cheesecake. Otherwise, you get a really dense cheesecake. So for our sweet potato pie marbling, we've got half a stick of melted butter, and we've got a cup of boiled chunks of sweet potatoes. Doesn't have to be exactly a cup, but about a cup is what you want. Next, we're going to sprinkle in some nutmeg. Next, we're going to sprinkle in some cinnamon. Need some more vanilla. I want about 2 tablespoons of brown sugar in here. And I'm going to sprinkle in about a teaspoon of flour. Half a teaspoon of flour. Now we're going to mix all this together, and this is going to be our sweet potato pie marbling for our cheesecake. So I'm going to make some adjustments here on the fly. So I'm going to put an egg in this as well. Just a whole egg. And I'm going to put a pinch of regular white sugar in there. We're going to mix this up, and now we're going to have our filling. So the trick to doing this, to getting your pies filled, is you want to take 1 scoop at a time per pie. That way you make sure that you get a nice balanced amount of filling per pie. And so I know I've got at least some room in here for my sweet potatoes, and so I'm gonna leave that just like that. So the next thing we want to do is add in some of that sweet potato pie for the marbled sweet potato pie we're making. So we take that little bit of filling there we've got, and we're just gonna kind of put it in here for now. And the last thing we want to do here is take just a butter knife and kind of work this in. And all I'm kind of doing is swirling. I'm not digging into the bottom because I don't want to break up the pie crust by accident. I'm just swirling to try to distribute this pie filling evenly throughout my cheesecake. And then because we took and kept some of this filling, we come back in with a little bit on the top. And then we kind of smooth that in. And then lastly, we just kind of expose it again. And that is sweet potato pie marbled inside of my basic cheesecake batter. And so all you gotta do now is set your oven to 315 degrees. I'd rather you cook this on a lower temperature than a hotter temperature because cheesecakes bake at a really low temperature. I don't use a water bath with my cheesecake recipe because if you bake it at a low enough temperature, you're gonna be fine and happy with how it comes out. Your cheesecake might crack on the top. Somebody will say, well, that's why you use a water bath. Well, that's fine if you wanna do that. But water baths are really cumbersome, right? And so what I'm doing is I'm just gonna bake it at a really low temperature. So if your oven has a tendency to bake a little hotter, then 315 might not be your temperature. It may be 305, it may be 300. But whatever the equivalent of 315 is at your house, then start there. And just keep an eye on your cheesecake as you bake it in the oven to make sure it's not browning on one side faster than the other, but just let it bake gently in the oven at 315. We're gonna bake that cheesecake for about 45 minutes to an hour at 315. But what we're really looking for to know how it's done is we're gonna look for the cheesecake to gently be set on the edge, but in the center have a little slight jiggle to it. So our cheesecakes have been in the oven for 45 minutes at 315. And this is what you wanna see. You see how with this cheesecake, it's puffed up on the edges, but it's kind of jiggly in the center? That's where we wanna be. You see how on that cheesecake it's set on the edge, but it's a little jiggly in the middle? That's where we want to be. We're going to cut the oven off, and we're going to let the cheesecake sit in the oven and cool until they are cool enough to handle with our hands. Then we're going to transfer them into the refrigerator overnight, and then I'll cut them for you guys in the morning and give you my reaction to how they turned out. Hey guys, we're back the next day, and we've got our sweet potato pie swirl cheesecake. Yes, I took sweet potato pie and I put it into a cheesecake. We baked it last night and we let it chill overnight. And so I'm gonna taste it for you guys to let you know how this turned out. I got a little bit of this whipped cream to garnish it. Let's get a nice bite here of the crust. Here we go. One more time, just in case you guys thought I made this up. Okay. I don't know which one you prefer, pumpkin versus sweet potato, but this sweet potato pie swirl cheesecake, you get the sweet potato notes, you get the cinnamon, you get the nutmeg, you get all those fall spices, and you get a surprising contrast between the sweet potato filling as well as the cheesecake blended together. The creaminess from the cheesecake really does add something to this dish, as well as the sort of, traditional flavors of a sweet potato pie. It comes through in this cheesecake, guys. So do me a favor. Thank you again for watching. Hit that subscription button, turn on those notifications, and do me a favor. Let me know in the comments which one you like. I've got a video that's gonna pop up here for my pumpkin swirl cheesecake. But let me know in the comments, do you prefer pumpkin pie? Do you prefer sweet potato pie? Do you like them all? And most importantly, make this pie and this cheesecake for your family during whatever holiday or fall season that you're celebrating. Guys, I'm Jamison, and once again, this is how I cook. And I've got a cheesecake slice to get back to. Y'all be good.